Hello, happy St Andrew's Day. It's the last day of November, when we celebrate the patron of Scotland, who is also the patron of Greece and the patron of Russia, and also the patron of the ecumenical see of Constantinople. Andrew, the brother of Peter. So the patriarch of Constantinople and the patriarch of Rome are brothers, as Peter and Andrew were brothers. And that's something to pray for today in particular, that their fraternal love and care and influence upon each other will be made more and more manifest in the church. The life of the Christian people in the world, because we need each other. Today, if you strain your ear at the windows here, you might be able to hear the spectral sound of bagpipes. Because it was on this day, and the preceding day, the 29th and 30th of November, that the army of Charles Edward Stuart, Bonnie Prince Charlie, camped on this very hillside where our church and house are. There's a little sign at the bottom of the hill and a street called Scotland. And there's a bridge at the bottom of the hill which is called Scotland because they homed the Scottish army, the Stuart army, on the way to reclaim the crown of England for James, the son of James II. Actually, on the other side of the river from Scotland is a place called Gibraltar. It's a very curious novel culture here. That was named after people coming back from the Peninsular Wars and not Washington, what was he called? Bonaparte. Who fought? Duke of Wellington, that's right. Anyway, so we live on Scotland Hill, and Scotland Bridge is there because this homed the Jacobite army for a couple of nights. Their artillery wasn't kept here, that was kept about a mile away on what's now called in Manchester Artillery Street. It was a place of gardens, and it's a place near this new development called Spinning Fields. So there's a couple of markers to that Jacobite residence here for a couple of days in 1745. When the evening of St Andrew's Day came, there were great festivities and bagpipes, and lots and lots of Manchester people supported the Jacobite cause. Lots of them. Lots of tartan bonnets going round and tartan waistcoats and white flowers, that's right, that's what they wore. And today, this evening, there was a great service in the Collegiate Church, which is now the Protestant Cathedral. It was a service of evensong, and at the end of that evening service, there were prayers, as usual, for the royal family. But today, there were new names there. The names of James III, the father of Charles Stuart, Bonnie Prince Charlie, was prayed. His name was mentioned, and his wives and their children. So it's the first time in England that a Catholic monarch was prayed for since 1688, James II. And lots of Catholics joined the Jacobite cause. There were mixed motives for the Jacobite cause, of course. In Scotland there were mixed motives, in England there were mixed motives, in France there were certainly mixed motives. But the Catholics on the whole came to join the Catholic prince for the Catholic king. Here in Manchester was formed a Manchester regiment, based loosely on recruits gained in the march south. Englishmen would be brought together into one regiment and given English captains. Some from around here, like Charles Townley, and others had officer roles. The two sons of Dr. Deacon of Manchester. Dr. Deacon was the ancient British Catholic bishop, he styled himself. Complicated story, but wonderful in its own right. But they, two sons, and Townley and others, they were picked up at Carlisle. So as the Jacobite army came down through Manchester on the way to London, it got to Derby, and they turned round and came back. But they wanted to leave one regiment in England, so the Manchester regiment was left at Carlisle. And when the Hanoverians came, Cumberland came, he dealt with them very, very harshly indeed. Interestingly, when the Jacobites came down and found the Hanoverian force there, they were very kind to them. They more or less let everybody go as long as they put their guns down and didn't fight them again. But the Hanoverians were rather more fierce. Many were hanged there, kept in prison with no water. They used to lick the stones to get some moisture in Carlisle. You can still see them there. Some of the officers were taken down to London and executed on Kennington Common at the end of July in 1746. Somebody leaves a great bunch of white roses there every year. But when that was wiped out, the Jacobite cause was wiped out, it still kept going in Manchester for quite a while, based actually at the Collegiate Church. There was an old-fashioned Tory High Church, Jacobite Collegiate Church, and there was a Whig, Liberal, Progressive Church of St Anne's in St Anne's Square. The two never got on at all. Now, I mention that really because it's part of the history of Manchester. It's part of the history of the Catholic cause here. The Catholics rallied to the Stuart flag. One chap called Thomas Siddle went there, who was a wig maker of Deansgate. His father had been executed in the 1715 Stuart Rising, and his father prayed that his sons would die the same way as he did for their faith and for their king. So very clearly it's a sort of Catholic cause that was going on here. And Thomas Siddle Jr. did the same. His head was sent back to Manchester with others and put on various spikes around the city to warn any recalcitrant Jacobites of what was coming. So, at St Andrew in Scotland, the relics were taken from the island of Patras in the 4th century and taken to Constantinople by the Emperor Constantine. They moved from there to, before that, 1204 comes into this. They moved to Amalfi, where most of them are. Some moved to Rome, and some were taken by St Augustine on his mission to these isles. And they were sent to St Andrews, which of course they would be, because St Andrews relics would go to a town called St Andrews. Really a wonderful coincidence. Biggest cathedral in Scotland was built there in the Middle Ages. Vast centre of learning. Well, the university was founded by an anti-pope, Benedict XIII, but that's another wonderful story. And lots of bits of St Andrew were sent. I think Leo XIII sent some when the hierarchy was restored in Scotland. And Paul VI sent some when he was in the cathedral was built. Anyway, can't remember. But lots of bits were sent up. There was a Queen Margaret of Scotland, who'd come up from England up to Scotland to civilize them. And she built a ferry in order to get to St Andrews. It's called Queen's Ferry. There's North Queen's Ferry and South Queen's Ferry, taking pilgrims over the Firth of Forth as a quick route to get to St Andrews. He's mentioned, though, as one of the principal titles of English ancient churches. along with St. Peter and Christ Church. See, when the first evangelists came over here, they wanted to link this country with the ancient apostles. And so a lot of the places are called after the ancient apostles. After that, a couple of hundred years later, they're named after Our Lady. After that, a couple of hundred years, they're named after Anglo-Saxon saints. You probably tell the date of a place by its dedication to a particular set of saints. So, St. Andrew, the brother of St. Peter. The Patriarch of Constantinople, the brother of the Patriarch of Rome. It is Andrew who is first converted, and he brings Peter. He's found him, found the Messiah, and tells him. And from that, brotherhood, like James and John, brothers, came so much. They gave up, those four, left their business and their families to follow him. So, pray to him for the reunion of the churches. It's really important. And may God's holy angels guard your going out and your comings in, and be with all those whom you love, both in this world and the next.